Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and so delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, CastBox, Audible, Player FM. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We're celebrating a wonderful new podcast for kids today. It's called Live from Mount Olympus. Our guests will be the creator, Julie Burstein, and the educational coordinator, Dr. Michael Cohen. And later in the show, we'll be meeting the author of My Father's Books, great picture book from our guest, Yi Jing Chang. Hey, my friends, I want you to meet Corky the Quirky Cow, the most musical cow you'll ever meet. Corky has a magical gift. She can mimic every animal on the farm. Pigs, ducks, chickens, you name it. Together with her friends, Corky creates a barnyard symphony so enchanting that Farmer Ken starts hosting concerts. Written by Lavelle Carlson, Corky the Quirky Cow is more than just a funny farm tale. It's a powerful tool for speech therapists, teachers, and parents to help build early language, articulation, and phonological skills. Through her fun-filled storybook adventures, Corky the Quirky Clown helps young readers boost their speech and language skills with laughter and learning. And guess what? She's offering a free downloadable book, Eek! I Hear a Squeak. It's perfect for parents, teachers, and speech therapists. You can get yours today at slpstorytellers.com. The Day Time Began, beautiful new picture book by Mary Ellen Roberson. Available at maryellenroberson.com.
In the dawn of the world, when colors were born, a gentle voice whispered, let there be morn. From mountains to rivers and skies up so blue, the daytime began. Oh, what a beautiful view. With every beat of the heart, in the breeze of the land, nature was singing as life took a stand. Oh, the wonders, the colors, the creatures so bright, in the pages of a story that brings pure delight. With every turn of the leaves, can you feel the cheer? The daytime began, let's celebrate here.
Sick Days just got spectacular. In Charlotte and Penelope and the neighborhood stage, two sisters are stuck inside until their animal friends put on the show of the year. Meet a dolphin band leader, a tap-dancing rabbit, and the loudest geese you've ever heard. It's a rhyming, rollicking, read-along adventure your kids will absolutely love. You can find Charlotte and Penelope and the Neighborhood Stage by Teresa Argenbright wherever books are sold.
You must be my breakfast.
No, I'm your new dance partner.
It'll be a little hard for you to dance once I've chewed off your feet.
You're much too slow to catch me.
Really? Don't you understand what you're standing on? That's right. The bones of 28 Athenian tributes. Why do you think you'll have a different ending, little prince?
Okay, let the great dance begin.
I am very excited. Today, we are going to explore a podcast you can listen to with your kids. First, coming to us from New Jersey, she is the creator of Live from Mount Olympus. Please welcome to the show, Julie Burstein. Julie, how are you?
I am very well, Jed. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I am very delighted to have you on the show. Also joining us is the person making sure that Julie doesn't make any mistakes, the educational consultant and director, Dr. Michael Cohen. Dr. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great, and it's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Did I get your title right?
So Michael is one of our creative advisors. Okay. And he does have the extraordinary background of being a developmental psychologist. And I would say, Michael, in addition to helping us understand young people, Michael has also given us incredible creative input. So he's a fabulous person to have on our team.
Awesome. Well, I am super happy that you, being the fabulous person that you are on the podcast with us. You know, both Michael and Julie, when I started reading with your kids back in 2017, the idea of kids actually listening and sitting down to a podcast seemed pretty out there. And there really weren't, there weren't that many podcasts to begin with. And there certainly, I don't know if there were any podcasts for kids. What gave you Julie, what gave you the thought that, hey, we can do this and kids are going to love listening to this podcast?
So my background is in radio. I worked for public radio for a gazillion years and produced mostly shows for grown-ups about art and culture. And when the Onassis Foundation reached out to me to say, let's do a podcast, I actually was at a march with a friend of mine who teaches 6th and 7th grade English in Newark, New Jersey. And I was telling her about this opportunity. We didn't know what we were going to do yet. And she said, you know, the kids in my class say, Ms. Rogers, when will we get to the Greek myths? And she said, I have to tell them probably never because they're not on the state test. So we're not going to teach the Greek myths. And that set a light bulb off for me because I grew up with the Greek myths. In fact, right behind me here is the book that my mother gave me when I was probably 6 years old, which is the Dolaire's Book of Greek Myths, which have some of the most beautiful images anywhere. Highly recommend. And so I went back to Onassis and said, what if we did a series on Greek myths for 8 to 12-year-olds? Although grown-ups really like it too. And they loved the idea. And so I knew that listening is the best way for me to take in anything. And there's something so intimate about it. I mean, that's why, right, reading to your kids, right, is so wonderful because it's so intimate. And audio, podcasting has that same intimacy. And parents and kids can listen together. It's like, not that I'm reading the book to you, it's that all these actors are performing an ancient Greek myth that still has power today. So I knew between this combination of the magic of audio and the incredible myths and the power of these myths that continue to today. And then we got to partner with this fabulous performing group called The Team. Their actors just bring it to life. That how could you miss? It would be just a delight for parents and kids alike.
That's wonderful. Dr. Michael, can you talk a little bit? We've talked a ton here on Reading with Your Kids about the benefits of reading with your kids, both for the kids and the adults. Is there any evidence that talks about the benefits of listening to audio stories together with your kids?
Absolutely. I mean, we know, I've actually conducted a good deal of the research that led us to kind of confirm our intuitive understanding of how important it is to read to your children. So we know that reading to your children is now predictive of their acquiring literacy skills. I mean, it's just, and I've conducted studies on that. The rise of ebooks and recorded books, I think helped us understand how important it was to listen as well as to read. My daughter is now 32, and I think we listened to the Harry Potter CDs 18,000 times, as well as read the books. So there's I think there's a strong connection because there's a huge imaginative factor going on. I'm unfortunately old enough to remember the end of the golden age of radio and listening to radio when I was a kid, and the imagination required and called upon is extraordinary. So there's a strong connection, and we've done studies on this that show that listening to either a book being read or listening to a podcast of something dramatically played out is very akin to reading, and it can be shared with multi-generations. So it's a very, very powerful form. And I've worked in many forms of media for children, the visual, movies, films, and I think it's one of the most powerful ones. So I was very excited to hear about this.
And the one thing that I have to say is you can also do it in the car, which is very hard to do when you're driving. You can't read to your kids while you're driving, but you can listen to a podcast, a dramatic podcast.
I was a huge fan of listening to audio. I remember there was I think it ran at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, the CBS radio theater, when I was in middle school and then high school. And I was a weird kid who would be listening to that, but it was fantastic. I also had a number of radio plays rejected by them. But yes, it's really, really powerful. Having literally, you both are in my ears right now. And so it's like having somebody whisper a story into your ear.
And the other thing that we get to do with this podcast is it's very highly produced, which means we record the actors and then we layer on the sound of the waves if the gods are on the beach, the sound of lightning as Zeus throws a thunderbolt. And we have a fabulous composer, Magda Gianico, who creates original music for each episode. And so in addition to the dramatic piece, the actors, the story, we get to create an entire world with sound that then opens up every listener's imagination to imagine what it is that they're hearing.
Yeah. It's fabulous. Not only, but 90% of the books that I consume these days is done via ebook. I mean, audiobook.
Audiobooks.
Yeah. It's just.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of evidence. I didn't mean to interrupt, but there's a lot of evidence that listening to the podcast will encourage kids and inspire them to go read about the Greek myths as well. So none of these media forms are mutually exclusive, and you can enter into this extraordinary world of the Greek myths through a variety of forms, reading about them, listening to live from Mount Olympus, and watching films, etc. So these all, are interconnected and really kind of exponentially support each other.
Yeah. Julie, before we start talking about season 6 specifically, who was the genius that decided that we don't have to teach kids about the Greek myths anymore? It's not relevant to our lives these days.
Well, it's really, part of being a teacher these days is understanding one piece of the assignment, which is your kids are going to get tested every year by your state. And that was really what this response was about, was that because there was so much material that the teacher had to make sure her students understood, she knew she wouldn't be able to get to something that we all love, and that they love, which is the Greek myths. And so she was delighted because this was a way for her to say, we may not be able to teach them in class, but go listen to this and you'll get the story.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't the teacher who made that decision. It was the educational system here. It was here in New Jersey that said, these are the things that are important. And so a teacher has to follow that.
I do understand that. I'm just curious as to, why we would, whoever would decide, this thing that we've been studying forever, just never mind.
It doesn't make sense to me either, but there are other ways of getting all this stuff, which is great.
Yeah. So let's talk about season 6, Theseus and Ariadne. Who are we going to meet in this season?
So this season is perhaps our most ambitious, and the hero that we meet is Theseus. And he is Greek, and he finds out he doesn't know his father. And through the story, through the episodes, we find out who his father is, or maybe isn't. And he gets sent along with 13 other Athenians as tribute to the island of Crete, because at that time in the early Bronze Age, the Minoan culture from Crete had this extraordinary navy and basically dominated the whole area. And through there are all sorts of interesting and complicated connections between Crete and Greece. But a prince gets killed in Greece, and as penance, Athens has to send tributes to the island of Crete, where there is the terrifying monster, the Minotaur. And the Minotaur is a creature who is human up until his neck, and he has the head and horns of a bull. And he's enormous. He's the size of a giant. And the myth tells us that these 14 tributes get sent to be eaten by the Minotaur. And so it's a very dramatic, tense confrontation. But Eros, the god of love, gets involved. And when Theseus arrives, he falls in love with Ariadne, who is the princess of Crete, and she falls in love with him. And the story that ensues is about how the two of them work together so that Theseus and the other tributes have a chance of getting out alive.
That is the kind of drama that I would have loved as a middle grader.
And this is the Greek myths, right? This is one of the things, and it's scary, and there are terrible things that happen. And one of the things, as Michael and I were working together in the beginning, we agreed is that we can't sugarcoat this. Mm-hmm. That part of the power of these myths is how dangerous and sometimes terrifying and sometimes terrible things happen. That these are all things that happen in these myths, and we can't pretend that they don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the audience for this is a pre-adolescent, adolescent audience, and what they are exposed to increasingly in the world is extraordinary. And what I was very impressed with Julie's approach was there wasn't going to be any gratuitous violence or gratuitous anything, but these stories capture. They have to be the coolest stories ever, and they capture all the conflicts and all the familial relationships and all the love and awe and wonder and also difficulty and violence in life. And they don't steer clear of any of this. And how to do this appropriately for an 8 to 12 year audience was a challenge, and I think that the creative team and Julie has done an absolutely brilliant job.
Thank you, Mike.
Dr. Mike, we've talked here on the podcast about the fact that this age group loves spooky and scary stories. In fact, there's a group of authors that come on and help us create an original story every Halloween called the Spooky Teen Authors. And one of the things they talk about is that these scary books give kids a chance to kind of imagine themselves facing these challenges and these hurdles and whatnot, and what they would do if given the same circumstances. Is this something you think is also happening with the podcast, that kids are able to imagine themselves?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, they know I've talked to many kids over 40 years as a developmental psychologist, and it's fun to be scared. It's fun to go to the movies and be scared. Why? Because you know it's a movie, right? It's different than being scared in your life. So, you get scared, but it's a story, and you understand that it's a play, it's a podcast, and yet you have a chance to have it resonate and reverberate and have meaning for your own life. So I think you're absolutely on the mark that it's a chance for kids to be coming to terms with these issues of family dynamics, of violence, of friends, of enemies, of falling in love. I mean, this particular story, has all the elements of what happens when you're coming of age and entering puberty and entering into the adult world. So I'm with you 100%. I think it gives kids a chance to really come to terms with their own lives.
Yeah.
One of the things that I often say is that the stories that we get to tell are stories of young people who are figuring out who they are and what they're capable of in extraordinary mythical circumstances. So that if I look at all the seasons, so the first season was about Perseus, who again is a young kid who doesn't know who his dad is and who grows up and has this absolutely terrifying challenge ahead of him, and finds out actually that he's the son of Zeus. He's a hero who has a mortal mother and the son of Zeus, and he has these very powerful half brothers and sisters like the gods Hermes and Athena, who help him on his quest to save his mother. And another story of the fully human hero Atalanta, who is a girl who grows up and she is taken care of by a family of bears because her parents abandoned her, and she grows up as a bear and then realizes she's human and becomes a hero. So all of these stories have these really wonderful, wild possibilities for these young heroes. And they have to figure out, what can I do? How do I take care of the people that I really love?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to be brave? What does it mean to face danger? What does it mean to be in love? What does it mean to sacrifice? What does it mean to know when something's the enemy? What does it mean to face danger? What does it mean to have friends? What does it mean to have support? These are all things that this age group is grappling. We're all grappling with, actually, starting to grapple with there, and it's all there in the Greek myths.
It is. It's all there. And this season, one of the most delightful things was, because we had 14 tributes who are like age 12 and 13, 12 to 14 maybe, we got to work with a group of young actors from the Epic Theater Company, which is a theater company in the Bronx in New York that takes high school students and gives them the opportunity to learn how to act. And these young people are just so delightful. You'll hear them in this season right at the very beginning of episode 1. They're on the boat going to Crete, talking about what's ahead. And the interplay between these young people is just so much fun.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Now each episode, I noticed is about 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, they're between about 12 and 20 minutes. So they vary depending on what's going on in that episode.
Yeah. So it's like the perfect listen on the way to ballet or soccer practice or school.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What kind of, one of the things I love asking authors is, what kind of conversations do you think families can have after or while they're reading a book? same thing to both of you. What kind of conversations do you think families can have if they listen to a 12-minute episode of Live from Mount Olympus and have a little bit more time before they get to practice?
Well, I always say, and we have research on this, that if you ask one question of your kid about what they read, or in this case, what they hear, the meaning and learning goes up exponentially by 8 times. So I think the first conversation is, what do you think? What did that, and what do you think of the characters? What do you think of the decisions they made? So questions that are never yes or no questions, but, and then let me tell you what I think. Says the parents of the kids. So it's these are fertile ground for opening conversations of what was your response? What your reaction? And the kid might say, well, I think they should have done this, or I would have done that, or I was amazed that they did this. And what do you think, mom or dad? And it's it really opens for these types of conversations, and the meaning will deepen for both, and you'll learn something about your child, and your child will learn something about you, which I thought was, having raised a daughter, was very important for them to learn about you as well as you learning about them. So.
That's super. And you're the expert, Dr. Michael. So one of the things that I've been saying here in the podcast a bunch of times is, when you're asking your kids questions and saying, I want to know your opinion, I've always said that that's empowering, that the most important person in your kid's life is saying, I want to know what you think. Was I just blowing hot air, or am I onto something?
No, you were absolutely not. You're absolutely not. Mm-hmm. And there's one trick I'll try to convey for parents, which is, if sometimes your kid doesn't want to say exactly what's going on with them, it's called an indirect question. I use this all the time with my daughter. I hope she doesn't get upset that she hears this podcast, which is, what do you think how would kids respond to this? So there was a tragic event in her high school, and I want to know what her experience was with this. But by asking her, what do all the other kids think about this? They will tell you, and so there are ways to find out what they're thinking without having to make them very uncomfortable about, revealing themselves. So so curiosity, but real curiosity is, what's your response to this? Will go a long way and really open the door, or keep the door open if it's already started, for communication, which I think is the number one goal of this.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the other thing I remind parents of, if you do ask your kids their opinion, their opinion's always right. You might not agree with it, but you did ask them for your opinion, so you have to respect that.
And I think too, and that's one of the reasons that I've spent my whole career in audio. Part of my career doing a lot of interviews is listening takes practice, right? That we often think we're listening when we're really forming the next response in our heads. And by listening to a podcast, it sort of opens up this space to then listen to each other. Mm-hmm. Because together we've just opened our ears to what's going on. And so I love, Michael, the questions that you asked, and I love, Jed, the way that you encourage parents to ask questions. And I think it's that I'm going to use that indirect question. I think that's fabulous. And then it's really making sure you listen to what they say and give them a time to respond. And sometimes that's the hardest part. I know when I do interviews, sometimes the hardest part is when somebody's thinking, and because in conversation, you feel like you need to fill space. I have to hold myself back from saying anything. And I found that with my kids too, that sometimes the important thing was to say, what do you think just happened to Theseus? And if they didn't say something right away, just actually sit quietly and let them think about it and then respond.
Yeah. This is great. The other thing that's coming to my mind is, listening to Live from Mount Olympus in the car. That's almost like the perfect place, because a lot of times conversations are a lot easier when we're in the car because we're not looking at each other.
Yes.
It's like we're really close, but I'm driving, you're looking out over here, and so there's no uncomfortable, staring at each other or whatnot.
A good therapist's office will always have the therapist and the patient, or the client, as we call them now, not looking directly at each other. So what you said absolutely is very true.
Yeah, and that was true with my own kids. And often what I found really fascinating was what they would say to each other in the back seat, as if I wasn't even there, so that, and that's a part of it too. If you listen with more than one kid, they may start a conversation after the episode finishes, and you may not even have to ask anything. You get to hear what they're thinking.
Yeah. That's one of the sneaky parent tricks that I always share with young parents. If you have a minivan, always volunteer to drive the kids, because you can just sit up front and just keep your mouth shut, and you'll learn everything that's going on at school.
Yeah,
Totally
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, any talk about you folks launching another podcast, or any end in sight to Live from Mount Olympus, or are you just going to keep going to season 85?
So we have one more season ahead, and we're working on it now. And it takes us about a year to produce a season. So it will come out next spring, which is exciting. And we have 6 under our belt, and it really is, I think we have more than 50 episodes. So if someone wants to dive in, you've got a lot that you get to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would love if we continue in some way, but we'll let you know. Julie, you'll be the first one to know if there's what the next project is.
That sounds great. In the meantime, we should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Live from Mount Olympus, and also where they can hear it.
You can hear it anywhere you get your podcasts. So iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, every place that there are podcasts. Just ask for Live from Mount Olympus. Yeah. And I hope we'll be able to share a little bit. We'll send you some audio so that you can share some in the podcast, so people can hear the worlds that we build.
That sounds great. We've had a really fun time speaking to the creator and the educational consultant of Live from Mount Olympus. This great podcast from our guests, Julie Burstein and Dr. Michael Cohen. My friends, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thanks. You very much. Really.
Thanks for having us. Really a delight.
Great.
A lively group of teens. 6 young men and 7 young women huddled together on deck, while a single slight figure stands silently at the prow, staring into the waves. They're on their way to the island of Crete as tributes.
My friends, if you have ever thought about owning a business that's fun, rewarding, and makes a valuable contribution to kids' education, well, Brooklyn Robot Foundry is calling your name. I recently met Ginny Young. She's the founder of Brooklyn Robot Foundry. And let me tell you, she is incredible. Her passion for getting kids excited about STEAM, that's STEM plus art, it's contagious. I'm telling you. This isn't your average kids program. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is all about hands-on, screen-free STEAM fun. These kids get to build a different robot each class and take it home with them afterwards. Kids love it. Parents are raving about it. And now you can own a franchise and bring this incredible experience to families in your community. Now, this isn't your typical franchise. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is a mobile, flexible business with a deep curriculum that's making a real impact in schools and communities around the country. Franchise owners get a proven curriculum, full training, and support from a passionate team. So what are you waiting for? Please visit bit.ly/RobotJed. That's bit.ly/RobotJed. And let them know you heard about it on Reading with Your Kids. Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Hey, my friends, would you like to bring a little warmth and magic into your home? Let me introduce you to Welsh Mountain Candles, hand-poured on a working Amish farm in Lancaster County. These all-natural, toxin-free candles are made from palm wax with a stunning crystallized glow, rich coconut apricot wax for a creamy finish, and essential oils for a pure, refreshing scent. Whether you're winding down, setting the mood, or just love a great candle, Welsh Mountain Candles are crafted with care and made to be shared. Visit welshmountaincandles.com. Use the promo code JED10 for 10% off your order today. Light up your home with Welsh Mountain Candles, where every candle tells a story. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Montreal in Quebec, Canada. Our guest is here here today. Wow, easy for me to say. She's here today to celebrate her brand new picture book. It's called My Father's Books. Please welcome to the show, Yi Jing Chang. Hey, Yi Jing, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
I'm delighted that you are here. Tell us about My Father's Books. I was reading on your website. It sounds like a fascinating book.
It's a book from my own experience and also my best friend's life story. And my mother passed away before I turned 30, so every day I miss her. And my good friend's father had been sick for 7 years, and she passed away in 2023. My friend really loved reading. She reads a lot. And her father has lots of books. So she told me from now on, nobody can discuss books with her anymore. And she feels very lonely and sad. And she told me she's going to read through all her father's books. So when she said that, my heart echoes her feelings, and I decided to create a book about grief, about when we lose our loved ones, what should we do, and our feelings.
Yeah. Such a beautiful way to deal with grief and your friend's grief, to turn that into a book that's going to inspire children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the book, we meet a little girl, is it?
Yes.
And her father passes away.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that they have such a great tradition of reading together, even though the young lady in the book, and even though your friend was an independent reader, they were still reading and sharing books together.
Yeah. It's also part of from my memory, because when I was a kid, my mother read to me and my brother a lot, because my mother studied Chinese literature, so she knows a lot. So she will, before bedtime, we will sit together, she will read the stories, and my mother also had a lot of books. So I just mix my childhood, my memory, and my good friend's story together and create this book. And I want to share our grief, and I want us to share our common feeling together, because we all experience this in our life. This is a part of our life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm happy that we seem to be more willing to talk about grief with our kids than people did when I was a kid. We didn't talk about it at all when I was a kid. It was like, they're not here anymore. But I think it's so very, very important. And my beautiful wife and I, kind of get some funny stares. My kids are now adults. They're 29 and 31. But very early on, if we lost somebody in the family, the kids would come to the funerals with us and the wakes and experience all the, the family bonding time and the grieving time together. I thought it was very important. And again, 25, 30 years ago, it still wasn't, looked on. We got a lot of stares. People were like, why are those kids here? They shouldn't be here.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought out this point, because it's the same thing for me. When I was a kid, nobody talked about death, especially to kids. I still remember when I was little, my grandfather passed away, and then there was a funeral, but all the kids, all the grandchildren, we were not allowed to attend the funeral. So, but I miss my grandfather. I love my grandfather, but I was not allowed to be there. So that's another reason why I created this book. I think kids should know about death. Kids should understand this is part of our human life. And also, I believe some of the kids, they do lose their loved ones at their young age. And then maybe they need something to echo their heart, to share the feelings together.
Yeah. You were mentioning that when your mom passed away, it helped you think back to the times when she would read to you and your brother. When I started reading with your kids, that was the reason I started the podcast. I knew that the relationship I had with my kids was built on a foundation of reading. And I wanted parents out there to know how important that bond was that we build when we're cuddled up reading with our kids and then continue to read with them as they become independent readers. It's wonderful that I discovered all the other great benefits that kids get when we read with them. But I think that bond that you and your mother and brother had, I think that's the most beautiful thing about reading with our kids.
Yes. I still remember the story my mother told me. And I think that's another reason why I wanted to create a children's book, because I remember all those nice books I read when I was a kid. And then now I'm an adult. Sometimes life is not easy, but those good memories with my mother, those books I have read inspired me. And those are like diamonds in my life. And those diamonds shine in me when I'm in the darkness in my life. So that's why I appreciate those books. I appreciate the time my mother spent with us.
Yeah. I'm curious. One of the things I love to ask author illustrators is what comes first for you, the images, the idea for images, or the story?
This is an interesting question because I'm both the author and the illustrator. So when I created this story, this book, my father's books, I actually started with drawing because I was so touched by what my friend told me. She's going to read through her father's books. So I actually drew a big bookshelf with lots of books. That's my first drawing because they inspire me. And then her father passed away in the autumn, so I drew the autumn and the little girl, and the father passed away. So that's how I started to draw this book. And then I started to think about my childhood with my mother. I started to draw when the girl was a baby, the father read with her. And then when she was a kindergarten girl, they still reading. When she became a high schooler, they still reading together. So I actually built up the story through drawings and little by little.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. I'm really curious about your friend. This is certainly a very personal moment in her life. How did she react when she found out that you were going to share the story, or that her story inspired you to create this story that people all over the world would be reading?
Actually, she was very touched because we were classmates when we studied film animations together in the university. So she also draws. But it's just now she is so busy with her life and she doesn't have time to draw. So she really encouraged me to do this. So when I started the project, from time to time, I will show her my drawing. I will ask her about her feedbacks, and I think she is a part of this process for me to produce my father's books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Kind of like a collaborator, silent in the background.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, I'm always amazed, and it was really interesting being the host of Reading with Your Kids. I've learned a lot about how children's books are made, especially picture books. And I was really surprised to learn that traditionally published picture books, there's usually very little communication between an author and an illustrator. Has that been your experience? And how do you feel about that? Would you like more communication with the author, or do you like just taking that manuscript and then telling your part of the story?
This is a very good question, because I did, before I created my father's book, I did another book with a children's book author, and I only did an illustration. So, and this pictures book is very interesting because it has a text and it has image, right? So when you put these two together, it becomes a book. So these two, they are actually equally important. They both have different functions. And that's why it's important that I usually communicate with the writers to know what they want. And then, but I don't draw 100% everything on the text. Yeah. Because the image can carry something else. It's like when I created my own book, my father's books, there are actually lots of things. It's not, I didn't put it into the text, but I put it in the drawing. For example, in my father's books, I use the color to represent the changing of the feeling. At the beginning, the little girl is very sad about her father's death. So the color is darker. It's more like dark black or dark blue. But when she started to read her father's books, her feelings start to change. And so I started to use lots of colorful colors, different colors, to show that her feelings started to change. So actually color plays a very important role in this story. So there are lots of things can touch reader in a subtle way through image. And but text is something else. It can explain the story. It can explain things, make it more logical. So I try to, it's very interesting. It's like an experiment. What kind of image and what kind of text, when you put these two together, it's something new. It's something different. But I do think more communication with the writer is important, because writer has their idea too. So I have my own idea. It's like two people creating one thing together.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I read about my father's books is that the girl, as she's reading her father's books, she felt as if her father was speaking to her through the book. What a beautiful image that is.
Yeah. It's also my personal experience, because my mother told me and my brother stories. So even today, I'm already 50. I still remember what my mother told me when I was a little girl. So those things is still coming back to me in my daily life. Like my mother once my mother explained a Chinese poem about how farmers, they grow rice and under the heat. So she mentioned that you have to treasure food. Even one rice is the farmer, they sweat a lot under the sun, produce this one rice. So you have to treasure food. This is so deeply into my mind, even until today. I always clean up my plates, even one rice. So I the things I think when parents try to put into our kids' mind when I was a kid, it still stay in me the rest of my life.
Yeah. You know, I really love that this tradition of reading with our kids. It's worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful. I mean, your face is really, your smile is really beaming as you're sitting back and reflecting and thinking about your mom and the time you spent together with her. It's awesome that you have those feelings, and it's wonderful that as human beings we share, even though we don't have the same language or necessarily the same customs, we share these human emotions and feelings, and it's just a great reminder that we're all part of one beautiful human family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I created my father's books. I want to share our common human feelings, not just about grief. It's also about the bond between the father and the daughter through their reading time, and this lasts forever. It's like what my mother has given me. It lasts forever. It's like a diamond shining in my heart. Even years after year, those diamonds, small things that she imparted into me through reading, is still shining in my heart.
I love it. I love it. What are you working on right now? What's the next project that we're going to be seeing from you?
I'm working on 2 projects right now. The first one I already finished. It's about it's a turtle story about a little turtle. He has a blue shell. All the other turtles, they have green shells. So he is very different from other turtle, and he doesn't have friends. So this is a book about self-identity and how to appreciate yourself. Even if you look different, you're still beautiful, and you should believe in yourself. And another book is about a migration bird, Canada goose, because we have a lot of Canada goose here. So it's a migration bird with a fish. They are different. A fish is always under the water. A bird is flying in the sky. They are different. So it's also a little bit about self-identity. They realize they are different because the bird are trying to go into the water and it's impossible to stay inside for long. And the fish try to fly. The bird try to carry the fish to fly in the sky. The fish cannot stay outside the water for too long. So they realize they are different, but they can still be good friends. So it's about self-identity, and also about we are different, but we can still be friends.
Wonderful. But we would love to have you back on to celebrate those books when they're out. In the meantime, let's tell everybody where they can go to find out more about my father's books and more about you.
I have, if you Google my name, you can find my website, and also the book is, you can find it on Amazon for sure.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Great. We've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of my father's books. It's a brand new picture book from our guest, Yi Jing Chang. Yi Jing, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
We are so delighted that you joined us for this episode of Reading with Your Kids. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you'll join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Hey, if this show moved you, if you learned from it, if you think it can move and be a benefit to somebody that you love, please share a link to the show, let them know all about it, and please consider leaving a 5-star review. We'd love for you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, and at JedleyMagic on X. Our website is readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guests, Julie Burstein and Dr. Michael Cohen. please be sure to check out Live from Mount Olympus. Also want to thank Yi Jing Chang. I want to thank my amazing team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Elle Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.